Hi, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, an energy worker, a channel, and a psychic medium. And what I do is to help you heal stuff. I say that kind of in quotes, heal, because I'm not quite sure if what people talk about when they talk about healing is what I think about. I think about transforming our relationship with our emotions so we live in better balance with ourselves, with our energies, so we can make better choices, be more present in our bodies. So I do a bunch of work that's geared toward healing, but it's a lot about emotional stuff. And so that leads me to the subject of this video. Can the Chiron wound be healed? And the answer is yes. Thanks for watching my video. I'll say more. Yes. It depends on what you think the wound is and what you think pain is for. First of all, most people in astrology, since Chiron's the Centaur's discovery in 1977, have been working with the myth of Chiron. That's about how he is inadvertently wounded by a poisoned arrow, and even though he has all these wonderful healing talents, he can't heal himself because this poison is lethal. But he's immortal. So we get this idea of wounded healer. You're wounded or you're a wounded healer, and you can't help yourself with the wound you have, but you can help other people with the wound they have. In Chiron's myth, it's where he works out a deal in order to give up his immortality and end the suffering. He trades places with Prometheus, who is having his liver eaten out by this giant bird, a vulture, an eagle, different interpretations, they're different stories, to different things. But essentially, the big bird eats the liver. Oh, the agony, the pain, right? And then the bird flies away. The next day, he's chained there for eternity as his punishment for stealing fire from Zeus, for tricking Zeus. And then the liver grows back, and the bird comes back the next day and eats it again. So perpetual suffering. Well, Chiron's in perpetual suffering. He can't die and he can't heal himself. So he gives up, he trades places and gives up his immortality, and he thereby dies. So in my version of working with Chiron stories, that myth teaches us that death is preferable to suffering, or some kinds of pain we can't deal with. So what I do in my approach to Chiron is I go back to the wound, which is his rejection by his mother at birth. That's a big deal. So what I offer you, and a lot of people have responded really well to this Chiron teaching over the years, is that you have an inner child or an inner kid, an inner infant, who felt rejected and unloved or unlovable or not worthy of love when you were very young and couldn't deal with it. So you got it somehow into your habits and your head and your heart that if you do what your Chiron in your chart says, then you're not going to be loved or you're going to be rejected. Some version of this. This part of me isn't lovable. So then you chronologically grow up, but this inner kid's pain persists. So at different times in your life, as you grow, as you mature or age chronologically, without perhaps maturing and bringing into balance this inner kid and loving this inner kid the way he or she needs, at times that chironic wound gets triggered and you are kind of taken over by that inner infant. And you feel helpless and clueless, and you make poor choices and self-destructive things. And so anyway, so that's kind of how I look at the Chiron wound, is not the idea of wounded versus wounded healer, but let's go back to understand how an inner child, an inner kid, an inner infant experienced love, or experienced a lack of love, or the loss of love, or the threat of the loss of love, acceptance, safety, care. So if you look at, so can the Chiron wound be healed? And I say rather flippantly, yes. Then I have to qualify by saying, well, it depends on how you look at the wound and what you think the wound is about. So let's take the example of, well, let me say that mythology is always social instruction. A group, a society, a family system, an institution telling stories to itself to reinforce and support certain behaviors and choices and ways of living and to discourage others. So myth is always social instruction. Do this, don't do that. So we receive these stories. So if you look at Chiron's wound as this unhealable pain, right, where he's inadvertently poisoned by a poisoned arrow or something, then it may look like that's what, when I was reading this story, when I was getting into astrology, and I read a bunch of different people talking about it, books and websites, and I was like, God, that seems to teach that pain is, life isn't worth living if you feel pain or if you feel the most intense sorts of pain. This really bothered me. It felt disempowering to me. So that's when I started working with this Ascended Masterite channel to kind of open up to different teachings. And so one of the results is, if you look at the pain of rejection that the inner child or inner infant may feel, well, can this be healed? Well, yes. If you parent your inner child now the way that you wished you were parented when you were young. One of the things I recommend, especially for people with their natal Chiron being activated by transits, especially outer planet transits, which are slower and build up a lot of emphasis over time, or a lot of juice, or at the Chiron return, especially around age 50, when Chiron's about a 50-year orbit. When here's your natal Chiron, when it goes all the way around the wheel, or 50 years, right? That Chiron return, many times the door is open to the inner infant who may as yet be unprocessed. But look at, and I suggest to clients, you make a list of what you wish your parents could have been for you or done for you at that age when you were young. Could be one thing, it could be 70, it could be 100 things, it could be 10 things. But the point is to recognize, in what way does my inner child not feel loved? In what way do I, as a sensitive, vulnerable person, not feel safe, supported, loved, encouraged? And then doing those things for yourself now. I work with people in counseling sessions or consultations and energy work and ongoing coaching work on this kind of stuff all the time. But I just thought I'd offer you this image, can this wound be healed? And the answer is yes, if you look at it from a different angle. If you bypass or step out of the myth as we've received it, as we in astrology, up to the point of me putting out my Chiron book a few years ago, how we've looked at it. If it's inescapable suffering and you have to give up your life, my God, that's terrible. So, my Sagittarius self needs something to be optimistic about, needs to invest in something, needs to know there is a better tomorrow. Not because I hope there is, but by actually doing concrete work to create a better tomorrow. So can the Chiron wound be healed? If you look at it as that you're hypersensitive to the potential of being rejected or criticized or not loved or not supported, or having somebody cut off their heart from yours or drop you or abandon you. If you look at it from that way, yes, it can be healed. So as I said, I do consultations with people. I also have the Chiron Natal Report available through tdjacobs.com on the Natal Reports page. And also in February of 2020 in Portland, Oregon, from February 6th through the 9th, I'll be doing a Chiron Healing Intensive to open up this inner kid stuff and teach you how to deal with this. And if you think about it, most people will need a kind of shepherd in this process, because to bring forward an inner kid who's vulnerable and doesn't feel loved and feels not worthy of love and feels rejected and worthy of rejection, to bring that kid forward and to integrate it with yourself, I teach you how to do it. So the Chiron Healing Intensive, the Chiron Report's a great place to start to get an idea, more of an idea of how I tell Chiron's story, and also your natal house sign placement and aspects if it's retrograde, and also the transits and progressions to Chiron and transits of Chiron to the rest of your natal chart. So anyway, that's the report. But check out the 4-day healing intensive, February 6th through 9th in Portland, Oregon. And also, of course, the other Chiron videos I have here on YouTube. This is part of a Chiron playlist. So you can see what I'm up to and take advantage of those resources at tdjacobs.com. Thanks for your time and energy, and take care of yourself.